Hello, everyone. I'm going to pin this so that everyone sees what I'm talking about. And there, I'm going to pin the comment. And I'm actually going to try and do this on, hi. I'm going to talk about bioidentical hormones. And I'm going to see if I can try and do this in my Facebook group at the same time. So give me 2 seconds and see if I could do this. Okay, I think I did it. I just won't know where to look. Do I look left? Do I look right? I wanted to do a live specifically on bioidentical hormones, because since I actually posted about it as of late, more and more people, like I've actually gotten emails from women saying, well, doesn't bioidentical hormones cause cancer? And I think it's really important to actually talk about this. And I don't think I'm going to be able to go live on Facebook here. I don't know what's going on. I got to figure this out. Okay, so let's talk about bioidentical hormones. I'm 53. I just turned 53 in January. I feel it's very important to educate in this area. So I'm not giving you any medical advice. This is between you and your physician. Whoever your OB is, you're going to have this conversation with. Hopefully it's with a functional medicine physician or an OBGYN who is trained in functional medicine, or even in my case, I actually work with my naturopath doctor. Here in Ontario, where I am, there's very little functional medicine physicians, and they really, where I am, they tend to follow the very, very flawed studies, which was the Women's Health Initiative. Everyone talks about this study. And so I think that's a good place to start. That study that scared the crap out of women in hormone therapy was using Premarin, which is an estrogen derived from a pregnant horse's urine. Okay, so that's number one. So this is not bioidentical to our own hormones, our own estrogen. Okay, so that's number one. This is that study. And the second thing was they used progestin. Okay, progestin is not progesterone. Progestin is what's in the Mirena IUD. It's also in the birth control pill. And when you are giving a woman who is perimenopausal or menopausal hormones that are not bioidentical to their own, I think that's where the risk is. And that's where the risk came from with all of these women. So if you were to look back at the study, and I listened to a podcast with Dr. Sarah Gottfried, and my girlfriend mentioned it to me, and I listened, and it's just like, it's so lovely and refreshing to see a conventionally Western medicine trained physician be so up on the science and what it is. And so, she even said that it was likely the progestin that caused all this breast cancer in all these women. Okay. So I've interviewed many physicians in this area. Last year, I actually have a couple of doctors that I interviewed. Plus, I interviewed Esther Bloom. She is a giant advocate for women's health and menopause, a healthy menopause. So that's that. I wanted to get that whole study on this whole cancer thing out there, because this is where women are so afraid. So I have personally been on bioidentical progesterone. It is made in a compounding pharmacy. And I started with a cream. like this. And this is probably, okay, so I'm 53 now. I probably started this when I was about 48, something like that. And this is a cream that you put on your wrists, like in right here. You put it in your inner thighs, on your inner thighs. And it's supposed to help with just helping with sleep, helping with giving you that more chill feeling. That's the progesterone hormone. But there's still a lot of crossover between progesterone and estrogen, and they really work in symphony together. So I don't have a thyroid. So for me, my biggest challenge is figuring out, is it my thyroid or is it estrogen? So I actually did a test with Cyfox Health. Yes, I am an affiliate with them, and I am a big believer in home testing. And sorry, that's my dog growling. She hears a door, a car, whatever. Anyway, so what I'm saying is you gotta find out your levels. I also do a Dutch test. I do a Dutch test probably once or twice a year. It is quite expensive. But the reason I do the Dutch test, and here's where things can get a little shady with hormones. You have three main pathways in which you metabolize estrogens, and there's three main estrogens. There's estriol, estrone, and estradiol. Okay, those are our hormones, our estrogens. And you can metabolize them in a pathway that could be more risky. So I traditionally do metabolize down that risky pathway. And here is where only the Dutch test is going to tell you this. And this is why I do feel it's important and it's very protective for women to do this test once a year, especially if you're on bioidenticals. So I'll tell you what I do, because I actually had an aunt who died of uterine cancer. Two aunts who died of uterine cancer. So for me, it's really important to ensure that I'm metabolizing my estrogens down a healthier pathway. So I've been on DIM, diindolylmethane. There's calcium D-glucarate. You can check my podcast recording with Esther Blum. And that was like in the fall. If you just do Sandy K. Esther, E-S-T-H-E-R, you'll be able to see or listen to that podcast. And then I also did another one with one of the medical officers. I think she's an officer. She's something at Dutch. She's chief medical officer, something like that. Dr. Debbie Rice on the Dutch test, so that you understand about these tests and why they're important. So, because I tend to metabolize down that pathway that can be a little bit riskier for these estrogenic type cancers, I take something that's protective. I take sulforaphane. So sulforaphane, this is the product that I take. It's called Bronco Protect. I love it. It's from Designs for Health. I take it once a day, and all it is a high concentration of basically broccoli sprouts. You'd have to eat a lot of sprouts to get this much, but I take it every day at lunch. And I also take an NRF2, which also has sulforaphane in it, but it's more, and again, from broccoli. But what these do is they help me to metabolize my estrogens down a healthy pathway. And honestly, I'm going to say this as a nutritionist, because these are supplements and I can speak to this and I can give advice on this because I consult in therapeutic grade supplements. I believe that absolutely every woman in midlife should be on one or both, plus maybe an NAC, N-acetylcysteine. It's also very protective. So these are things that you can do to arm yourself and then feel better at the same time by taking the bioidenticals. See what I'm saying? So on the other hand, I was talking about progesterone. So I was talking about the cream. I had to upgrade to capsules for progesterone. And the reason I did, this is actually better if you are having more sleep disturbances, which I was starting to have. And let me make this clear. You can be on progesterone alone, but I've never heard of anybody going on, estrogen alone, because we want to mimic, you want to kind of mimic what it's like to be young again, right? But we can't be young again. We can't exactly be 30 again. So I think it's very important that we optimize our hormones for the age we're at. So at 53, I did have a period actually in December, and it was a normal period. But then I checked my estrogen, and I was starting to have not necessarily hot flashes in a traditional sense, like, sweating like a pig. It was just more like a heat intolerance a couple times a day and at night. And so I was like, okay, is this thyroid or is this estrogen? So in the end, I started estrogen. Now, I'm going to talk about the protectiveness of estrogen. I actually have a podcast recording coming with a doctor that does pellet therapy. I'm sure a lot of the people in the US know what pellet hormone therapy is. And he is the chief medical officer with Bioidentical. Okay, so this is a cream, and there's different mixes. Again, it's bioidentical, very clean. The one that I've started on is a baby dose, and it's 80% estriol, 20% estradiol. So I am using these every night, and I take a hormone holiday once a week only, otherwise 6 days a week. So these are every day. So let me tell you the benefits of estrogen. Not only is it heart protective, it's also brain protective, and it's bone protective. So what happens, and this is coming from physicians who actually prescribe this. What happens is the longer a woman goes without optimizing her estrogen as best as she can for her age, the more likely she will have issues, whether it would be dementia, bone loss, or heart disease. So a couple of markers, I feel this is why I always refer to Cyfox Health, because it's a great place to start. So, and there is a link in my bio for them, and I did interview with them. They're just awesome. So these are home test kits that you can do. So when I did this test, it was so interesting because my estrogen was so low. And for the first time in my life, I had a slightly elevated high sensitivity C-reactive protein. And higher C-reactive protein is a sign of inflammation. When a woman has menopausal symptoms, and some can be really extreme, that's inflammation, right? So an elevated C-reactive protein, high sensitivity C-reactive protein, they use that as a marker for inflammation, and often it is a marker that would indicate some heart stuff going on. So this is why I was like, So I'm piecing it all together, and I'm like, okay, this has never happened to me. But it's a sign that maybe it's time for me to look at a little bit of estrogen. Okay. So the last thing I want to talk about. So I talked about the types. So this is a cream. Estrogen is always best taken in a cream or gel format as opposed to capsules. And then this is the progesterone, and I've had to upgrade to this. And then I'm going to talk about skin. So I'm going to finish with this. I had some weird joint tendon things going on as of late. And I would say last 6 months, I was told that I had tendinosis. So tendinosis is more of a progressed tendinitis. And interesting, I had calcification in here. I had an ultrasound done. And I'm like, this is so weird because it's not like me to have something that I can't resolve, because I do red light therapy, I do all the things, right? And I'm like, this could be estrogen. Because what happens to a lot of women is they start to have aches and pains that they never had before. And you start to have issues. So I started this last Friday. This is the estrogen. And my sleep got better almost immediately. The hot flashes that I was experiencing went away. And guess what? My wrist is feeling better. So I wanted to say that because I feel it's really important to say how, like, we're meant to feel good. Like, I feel like I'm 30. I have enough energy for the day. I can do what I want. I work out. I lift hard. And, you know, I love life. I don't walk around miserable, menopausal, which is the stigma, right? So the last thing I want to talk about is skin. So I actually went and saw my plastic surgeon today. And I had an upper upper bleph eyelids done 2 years ago, and he wanted to see how things were. And he is a board certified, very well respected plastic surgeon. We started talking about estriol for the skin, and this is coming from a plastic surgeon. He said, wow, your skin is amazing for a 53-year-old woman. For a 53-year-old woman. There's that little caveat, right? But still, he said, your skin is amazing. So I'm going to say, so I was talking to him about this. I told him I've been using this since last September. And I told him it works better than his $250 skin cream or serum that he uses at his office. And he wrote it down. He said, wow. He said, I'm learning something new from you. And he said, your eyes, like, everything looks amazing. So an upper blepharoplasty is when they take the excess skin. I had severe hooding. Like, I'm sure by the time I was 60, it would have been covered by insurance. That's how severely hooded they were. So I did that a couple years ago. And then here, I was more concerned about what's going on down here. And this has been amazing. And then I've been using Quicksilver Scientific, the estriol for the neck and all of this. And I could totally see that it's starting to tighten, even my jawline. So the moral of the story is estrogen is a very health protective hormone that all of us women need. It's just that you need to proceed with caution, work with somebody who understands bioidenticals, who uses bioidenticals, and feel free to touch base if you have any questions. But also check out, I have 3 that I would suggest podcast recordings from last year. Just type in Sandy Kay and type in Susan. It's with Dr. Susan Hardwick Smith. She's an OB out of Texas. Definitely check her out in my podcast. Check out my recording with the Dutch test. So again, Sandy Kay Dutch test. And then check out my recording with Dr. Esther Blum. She's not a doctor. She's an integrative dietitian. So Esther Blum. And definitely educate yourself. And if you're in my area, I have an amazing naturopathic doctor who can prescribe bioidentical hormones if this is a route you want to go. So I hope you guys have a great day. And thank you for listening. And definitely, I have to say, share this with another woman who also would be benefiting from this information. Have a good one.